from this spot later in the morning with Chief John Drake and others. At 10:13 this morning, the police department received a call of an active shooter inside Covenant School, Covenant Presbyterian Church. The police department response was swift. Officers entered the first story of the school, began clearing it. They heard shots coming from the second level. They immediately went to the gunfire. When the officers got to the second level, they saw a shooter, a female, who was firing. The officers engaged her. She was fatally shot by responding police officers. There was a 5-member team who was on the second floor at that time. 2 individuals from that 5-member team opened fire on the shooter. We know at this point that this shooter is a female. She appears to be in her teens, although her identification has not been confirmed at this juncture. We know that she was armed with at least 2 assault-type rifles and a handgun. We are efforting now to identify her. She entered the school through a side entrance and traversed her way from the first floor to the second floor, firing multiple shots. We now know that there are 3 students who were fatally wounded, as well as 3 adults inside the school. We are working to identify those victims. Including the shooter, a total of 7 persons were killed as a result of this morning's incident at the school. By 10:27, the shooter was deceased. The officers had engaged the shooter by 10:27, and she was deceased. Again, I said the first call came in at 10:13 this morning. We'll have more details to give you later in the morning. Chief Drake will be here in a bit. Now, Kendra Maloney from Nashville Fire.
Fire department crews are dispatched for active shooter incidents as well, for medical support, but also for an RTF response, which is a rescue task force response to go in alongside of MNPD response. Our crews were right there on the scene to provide medical aid to any survivors, but also be there for victims so that we could try life-saving efforts in this case. So we went in as soon as it was safe for our responders to do so, to try to provide life-saving efforts for those that were impacted by this incident and this tragedy. Our crews were able to be on scene to pull out those that had viable signs of life, those that were still showing the option to be saved. And we did make transport of 3 individuals and 3 children, and then 2 adults that were taken from the scene. Our crews then set up a reunification unit. That reunification unit is at 2100 Woodmont Boulevard. That's where parents can go to be reunited with their children. All of the remaining students were able to be escorted out of the building with faculty and staff. We're not sure about the processes that they had in place, but we were on scene to help them mitigate anyone from seeing exactly what else was going on, but we're sure that they heard the chaos that was surrounding this. So we do have mental health specialists and professionals that are at that reunification site for both the students and the families that are going to be affected by this today. Our OEM units were able to provide buses to make transport from the Covenant School to the reunification site. We had one bus that carried 74 students and faculty staff members to the reunification site, and an additional bus that had 34 students on them. So all of those persons were carried. It was difficult for us to kind of identify who was just there as part of staff for the church versus who was there for the school, because it's all housed in one building. But at this time, we were able to get that number of persons transported out of the building and into that reunification site. So that is where parents can go to be reunited with their students. There is a hotline being set up for parents to call, but right now that is where they should go, 2100 Woodmont Boulevard, which is Woodmont Baptist Church. Additionally, we do have a debriefing site set up for on-staff or personnel who are working this incident, and there are mental health professionals set up there for them as well. There was one police officer that was injured with a hand injury as a result of making an attack on this incident. But other than that, there have been no additional injuries to first responders or personnel responding to this. And as Don mentioned earlier, we will have further updates coming later on in the afternoon.
So on a typical day, there would be about 209 students inside the school and approximately 40 to 50 staff members, about 42 staff members. I'll take just a couple of questions before we go back.
Clear. So the 7 dead, and then nature of injuries, how many injured do you know? That maybe are being treated still, or injuries? I know first responders were.
An officer had a wound from cut glass. That is the only other injury that I'm aware of.
Do we know if the injuries to the students are critical or in stable condition?
The 3 students are deceased. The 3 students who were shot are deceased. 3 staff members who were shot are deceased. That's a total of 6 victims. And then you have the shooter who was engaged by 2 of our police officers, part of a 5-member team, and she is deceased for a total of 7 individuals. There are no other gunshot victims, non-lethal, that I'm aware of at present.
Do you know how many people were shot? Do you know how many people were shot before the police engaged the shooter?
No.
Do you know if they shot anyone after they engaged the shooter? Do you know if the shooter was able to shoot anyone else?
What? We do not know who she is at this juncture. We're trying to identify her. She does appear to be in her teens. Again, with 2 assault-type rifles and at least 1 pistol. No, I'm not.
Was there an SRO or an SSO working at the school?
No, this is a church that operates a private school. There was no Metro Police personnel assigned to that building at any time.
Do you know if either the 2 adults that were shot maybe confronted the gun?
You said 2?
Yeah, the adults.
No, there are a total of 3 adults.
3 adults.
3 adults who have been fatally wounded.
Okay, one of them being the shooter?
No.
No. Okay, 3 total.
So let me go over this again. You have a total of 6 victims, 3 students who are deceased, and 3 adult staff members from the school who are deceased. The shooter herself makes 7.
Do you know if one of the 3 adults maybe confronted her?
I do not.
Are they teachers?
There is video from the school that we are viewing now to try to learn exactly how all of this happened.
Can you say where the victims were located? Were they in a hallway, in a classroom?
I cannot at this juncture. As you know, 5 of the 6 were transported. So we will get that information later in the day. It is an upper level part of the school. It's kind of a lobby type area. It was not in a classroom per se. All right, we'll be back shortly with more detail. We'll tweet out, give you a 15-minute or so notice before the next one, okay?